Hello cloud engineers and welcome to this module on Redshift architecture. In this module, we are going to discuss about the Redshift cluster, the leader node's role in the Redshift cluster, the compute node and its interactions with the leader node, node slices and how they form the compute node, what the internal network is, databases, very interesting topic, client applications, and finally summary. So what you see here right on your screen is a pictorial representation of the Redshift cluster. And what we are going to do now is that we are basically going to go over all the components of this Redshift cluster. And then what we are going to do is that we are going to deep dive into each one of them. So here we have client applications, you have leader node, JDBC, ODBC in order to communicate. We have compute nodes, and then what we have is that node slices which are part of the compute nodes. And if you can see here, you have compute node 1 to compute node n, which means we can have one or more than one compute nodes. And at the bottom here, what you see are disks that work with the compute node. So we'll start off our discussion about the components of the Redshift cluster with a look at what is known as the leader node. Okay, so I will try and explain the leader node with the help of an analogy. So typically what happens in an IT software teams is that we have a tech lead, and then we have a bunch of cloud engineers who work for that tech lead. And the role of that tech lead is to basically collect work from the client or the business, make sure that that work that is provided makes sense. And then what the tech lead does is that he distributes the work to the cloud engineers. The cloud engineers work on these tasks. It goes back to the tech lead. The tech lead verifies the work. If work has to be merged between the cloud engineers, he will merge it, and then he will give it back to the clients or to the business that has actually given the work to that team. So what I just described is a functioning of a team in which a tech lead has actually given work to his team members, the cloud engineers in his team. And the leader node actually works very, very similar to a tech lead in a team, right? As in, what the leader node does is that it accepts information or requests from client applications, and then the leader node distributes the work between its compute nodes. The compute nodes actually do the work, and once they have done the work, they send the work back to the leader node. And once the work has been sent back to the leader node is responsible for making sure that the work is merged if it needs to be, and then it sends the information back to the client application. So at a very high level, what we have just discussed is how the leader node operates, and which is very, very similar to a team operation. So let us further look at the other activities that a leader node does. So let's look at the first point here. Manages communication between the client programs and communication with the compute nodes. Now, when there is a request for work that is sent from the client applications to this Redshift cluster, what has to happen is that the leader node, what it does is that it tries to understand what is known as the requests that are being sent by the client application. So the leader node is responsible for making sure that the requests that come from the client application are routed appropriately to the compute nodes. Okay, so that is the responsibility of the leader node. The client application will not talk to the compute nodes directly. It always comes to the leader node, and then the leader node will decide what information to pass on to the leader node. There are tasks that the leader node can complete themselves, so those kind of tasks will not be sent to the compute node. But wherever tasks are involved that have to be sent to the compute node, the leader node will actually communicate that to the compute node. So this is the communication between the client programs and the compute nodes that the leader node manages. So the next point is parses and develops execution plan to carry out database operation. Now, client applications, like an SQL client or an ETL tool, what they are going to do is that they are going to send in requests in the form of SQL to the leader node. So one of the jobs of the leader node is to actually parse the code that comes in. So what does parsing mean? So the process of parsing, actually essentially what that means is that it is actually going to check whether the code that has been sent is syntactically correct, number one. It is also going to check if the client who is making this request has the necessary privileges in order to make this request. Okay, and once it has done these both, the next thing that it does is that it develops execution plans. So the question is that what is an execution plan? So the way to think about an execution plan is the way a GPS operates. So if you want to go from city A to city B, and if you punch this information into a GPS or into your Google Maps on your phone, what it does is that it actually provides you with a route that actually takes you from city A to city B, right? So execution plans is similar to the route that a GPS is offering you. It is the route that the SQL has to take in order to get to the data and retrieve all that data and bring it back to the leader node and then send it back to the client application. So that is another important role of the leader node. The next point distributes SQL to the compute node only if data is stored in the nodes. So this is a very, very, loaded statement, and let us try to understand this better. Now, as we just talked about, the leader node parses the, statements that are coming from the SQL client, which is, SQL statements. And once it parses and it ensures that, the client who is requesting this information has the necessary privilege, the next thing that the leader node does is that it will have to actually distribute the SQL, let us say in this case a select, across its compute nodes in order to fetch data. So the statement says that it distributes to the compute node only if data is stored in the node. So the question is that why does it say that? So in order to understand that, what we need to understand is how data is distributed between the compute nodes. So let us say that you create a table, let us say employees. Now when you create a table employees and you insert data into it, the data of the employees table could be on compute node 1, could be on compute node 2, or it could be on both the nodes. So the question we have to actually ask ourselves is that when an Amazon Redshift developer creates a table and inserts data into the table, how will Redshift decide on which compute node the data should be stored? So we have a leader node and we have multiple compute nodes. The data for the tables are stored inside the compute nodes, and when you create a table, that table data can be stored in compute node 1 or compute node 2, or if there are more than 2 compute nodes, it can be stored in any of those compute nodes. So what we are trying to understand is how will Redshift figure out that when the employees table is created and when rows are inserted into it, where it should actually store the data. So I want you to pause for a second and try to think about this and try to come up with an answer. Okay, so now that you have thought about it, right, the answer to this question is that you as the Amazon Redshift developer needs to make that decision as to where that employees table will be stored. Will it be stored on compute node 1? Will it be stored on compute node 2? Or will it be, shared between compute node 1 and compute node 2? And you will make this decision based on what is known as data distribution rules that you will set when you create the table. Now we are going to have a separate module to cover what is known as data distribution, and we will see that when we are designing tables, so don't worry about it at all. But what I want you to understand right now is that the leader node actually will send a query to fetch data or to perform an action to a particular node if and only if data for a given table is actually present in that node. And that makes perfect sense, right? Why would a leader node send a query to a compute node which has no data? If you do select from employees and if it has no data in node 1, there is no point in sending that select statement to compute node 1. So that's a very, very important statement. And data distribution is something that we will, as I just mentioned, look at later. The next point is obtain results of queries from compute nodes, and in case of complex queries, and performs a series of steps. So we just learned that a table like employees can be distributed between compute node 1 and compute node 2. Now if the table is split between node 1 and node 2, and let us say that you write a group by clause in your SQL, in order to complete that, it actually needs information from node 1 as well as node 2. So what the leader node has to do is that it has to actually collect the information that node 1 will send. It will have to collect the information that node 2 will send, and after collecting information from node 1 and node 2, it will have to basically aggregate that information together in order to what is known as find the final answer, right? Because information from node 1 alone is not sufficient, information from node 2 alone is not sufficient, because employees table, as we just said, is split between compute node 1 and 2. So the leader node has to take information that it got from compute node 1, from node 2, and merge them together to create the final what is known as grouping result. So that is an important function that the leader node performs. Okay. The next point is caching of query results. So if, let us say, you come and you run a select statement, and data, because of that select statement, it shows up on your screen and you get it back, you see that result, and then you go for lunch, and then you come back and then you run the query again. Now it is possible that the underlying data has not changed at all, and Redshift understands if the underlying data has undergone change or not. So what it will do is that the leader node will actually cache the query results in it, so that it does not have to unnecessarily go and expend time, energy and effort to actually rerun this query again. If the underlying data has changed, then of course it will go ahead and rerun the query. But if there is no change in the underlying query, what it will do is that it will simply have the data stored in it in the memory, and the leader node, what it does is that it sends the query results directly from the cache. The next point is maintaining data of system tables called catalog tables. So every database has its own what is known as system tables. Like in Oracle we call it DBA underscore, and in what is known as SQL Server we have information underscore schema, and all these kind of catalog tables. And the Redshift database also has catalog tables, and these catalog tables are actually managed and run by the leader node. They provide information like how many tables are there, how much data has been consumed, how many users are there, what privileges users have. I'm going to cover a separate module covering system tables and catalog tables, so you don't have to worry, as we will go through several catalog tables that are of critical importance to a Redshift developer, which they have to use on a daily basis. Okay, so what we have covered right now is the leader node. With this we have come to end of part 1, and if you have the time, please join me in part 2, where we will actually look at the compute node. Thank you.